Taylor Swift was always having to sort of tone down Blake. Blake thought she was the leader of the pack. These two women who both think that they're Khaleesi and the other one is their dragon. Sounds like they need to just have some kind of a duel or something sorted out. Like Captain Kirk and Spock in Amok Time. Dun 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 dun. A few juicy little tidbits tucked into one of the Daily Mail stories about Blake Lively and Taylor Swift the last few days. And of course, the Daily Mail has a source or sources in Taylor Swift's camp who have been blabbing, trying to make it clear to everyone that Taylor is not a part of all of this BS and that she is defecting to Team Baldoni for all intents and purposes. She and her legal team, she's had enough, et cetera, et cetera. But I totally do believe that the Daily Mail has legit sources. And I know that Candace Owens has flat out said that Taylor Swift's father is one of the sources. I totally trust the Daily Mail on this. Like I said in the past, I have seen instances where I know that they are talking to legit sources and even celebrities at times, or celebrity spokespeople behind the scenes. And so it's not that everything that's in the Daily Mail is true, but the Daily Mail, when they say they have a source in someone's camp, they do. So anyway, this is what's coming out of Taylor Swift's camp. And this is what I thought. This is not getting as much coverage. There's a few juicy things that I wanted to talk about in here that have not gotten as much coverage as of late as the bigger story about Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. But it says here, when Taylor looks back at their friendship, she realizes it wasn't worth all the stress that Blake put her through. This is the source close to Swift they're quoting. She looks back at the relationship, the friendship, realizes it wasn't worth all the stress that Blake put her through. Now, first of all, this is talking about more than just the stress of recent months with the Baldoni thing. This is intimating something much more long-standing. So I think that's kind of interesting. If this is basically, as it's being presented here in this article, if this recent saga with Baldoni is just the last and biggest straw that broke the camel's back in a much larger saga where Taylor has had enough of Blake and her antics, makes you wonder, what else has Blake been doing over recent months, recent years that Taylor has had enough of? And then this article says that when Taylor looks back at their friendship, she can now see all the red flags that should have been warning to her. So you're thinking, I'm thinking now, like, what are those red flags? That's the juicy question here. And I would imagine that what we're going to see in coming months is we're going to hear more about the problems in Taylor Swift's and Blake's relationship. We're going to hear more about Blake's antics. It says, the source says, quote, Taylor had to tone Blake down time and time again because she always wanted to be the leader of the pack. Taylor had to tone Blake down because Blake wanted to be the leader of the pack. Now, tone someone down, interesting terminology there. And it says that Blake always wanted to be the leader of the pack. So this makes me think that there must have been many occasions when Taylor and Blake were socializing or were partying where Blake was being obnoxious. In other words, I don't think that what we've seen with the Baldoni situation is some out of character, unusual behavior, apparently, for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Rather, what it would seem is that these two have been causing problems in their professional environments, and as it turns out, in their social environments. They have been causing problems, and people have basically just been putting up with them. It turns out people talked about Blake as this mean girl, or his high school mean girl character. But it turns out, really, in a lot of ways, this could be a situation where you do have this mean girl who's been the queen bee for a while, or thinks in her own mind she's the queen bee. And people have really just been sort of like people put up with the asshole high school jock and his cheerleader homecoming queen girlfriend. It could be that people really have just been humoring these two and putting up with them because they're wealthy and powerful, and they've really had enough. And of course, almost all relationships in Hollywood and the entertainment industry are transactional. And so we also have a situation where Blake has, it looks like, completely outlived her usefulness to Taylor Swift and has now crossed over into outright antagonism. So interesting. Again, my question is, what are all the juicy things that Blake has been doing behind the scenes for months, for years, that have been pissing people off, these warning signs, these red flags that we're going to hear more about in coming months? But I thought that was interesting. Okay, continuing on. And one more thing. This idea that Blake wanted to be the leader of the pack. What's being suggested here is that actually there was almost within their friend circle a kind of a rivalry going on between Blake and Taylor. We've heard about how Taylor has this squad, right? And it was always assumed that everyone understood that Taylor was really at the head of this squad, the most successful, the most money, the most prestige. You know, she was the queen bee. It turns out that it seems like Blake Lively, in her own delusional mind, was the queen bee. Was the queen bee. So you have this situation where Blake, apparently in these social settings, was out to lunch and was delusional in her own mind, was thinking that she was the central planet, right, around which all others were orbiting. Oh, man. Blake Lively, thinking that she is the center of the earth, right? Doesn't want to hear what Galileo has to say, right? I'm the queen bee. I'm the leader of the pack. So, and it sounds like Taylor Swift had been putting up with that again. You know, you got massive egos here, too. I'm not trying to make Taylor sound like some long-suffering saint. I find her annoying as hell. And Brian Friedman, you know, it's strategically nice for him to say that more or less Taylor's basically off the hook and Blake was just, you know, making up a bunch of stuff or whatever, but good for him. But again, I'm not entirely convinced that Taylor did not have a role in some of the It Ends With Us shenanigans, but we will see. We will see. But here's the thing. If Blake Lively is going around, as she did with Baldoni, telling people that Taylor Swift is one of her dragons and that she's the Khaleesi, this very much goes along with what we're getting in the Daily Mail here about how Taylor Swift was always having to sort of tone down Blake. Blake thought she was the leader of the pack. So basically, we've got these two women who both think that they're Khaleesi and the other one is their dragon. Sounds like they need to just have some kind of a duel or something to sort it out. Like Captain Kirk and Spock in Amok Time. Dun, 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 dun. He is deep in the bloodlust. All right, some of you aren't Trekkies here. I have no idea what I'm talking about there. So anyway, last point. So it says, Taylor is relieved the relationship is over. She put up with Blake's antics for too long because she's a loyal friend. It took the It Ends With Us drama to finally get her to pull the trigger on it. Now, it also says, it is understood that a dutiful Travis Kelce is following suit and cutting off Lively and Reynolds. Quote, Taylor and Travis are disgusted with Blake and Ryan and how they tried to use Taylor in their fight against Justin Baldoni. They're vowing their break from the acting couple is permanent. That's right. They are taking a permanent break. They are getting off the smack, the Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds smack. All right. Everybody, I've got more to come. I got to go to work, so can't do any more for you now. But I've got two cool videos coming out soon. And yes, I'm going to be going to the Marilyn Manson concert tomorrow night in Dallas. I will be there, and I'm going to be doing some cool videos from there, maybe even a short stream. But definitely, I'll have from my Manson fans some interesting things coming out next couple of days from the concert. All right, everybody, check out my links, support my work. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.